Most Canadians think their TFSA is completely tax-free, not just while they're alive, but after they're gone as well. And while that's partly true, there's a critical detail that could cost your family thousands of dollars if you get it wrong. The difference between naming a successor holder and naming a beneficiary on your TFSA isn't just paperwork. It's the difference between your spouse keeping your entire account intact and tax-free or losing a significant chunk to taxes and probate. By the end of this video, you'll understand how TFSA designations work and how to set them up properly so your family receives what you intended. Hi, I'm Stefano Francesca, Certified Financial Planner Professional and Senior Wealth Advisor at Next Step Wealth Management with IPC Securities Corporation. If you find this helpful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps more Canadians see this. When it comes to estate planning, most Canadians focus on their RRSP, their house, maybe their life insurance. But your TFSA deserves just as much attention because if you set it up correctly, it can pass to your loved ones completely tax-free with no probate fees and without complications on your final tax return. But if you don't set it up correctly, your family could face unnecessary taxes, delays, and confusion at the worst possible time. Let's break down exactly what happens and what you need to do to protect your family. Number one, successor holder, the gold standard for spouses. If you're married or in a common law relationship, the absolute best way to handle your TFSA is to name your spouse or partner as the successor holder. When you name someone as successor holder, and this option is only available for spouses or common law partners, they don't just inherit the money. They inherit the entire account, and it becomes their TFSA with all the same tax-free benefits automatically. No taxes, no probate, no need to collapse the account. Let me give you an example. Robert is 72 with $150,000 in his TFSA. His wife, Linda, is named as the successor holder. If Robert passes away, that $150,000 transfers directly to Linda. It's now her TFSA, continues to grow tax-free, and she can withdraw whenever she wants without paying a cent in tax. Robert's value is added to Linda's TFSA value with no limit. She can keep two TFSA accounts or combine into one, whatever she likes. Compare that to naming Linda as a beneficiary or not naming anyone at all. In those cases, the account does not continue as a TFSA, and any rollover requires additional steps, timing rules, tax on the growth, and significant complexity. It's a huge difference. The successor holder designation must be set up on your account with your financial institution. You can't just write it into your will. You need to fill out the designation form with your bank or investment firm, and it must say successor holder, not just beneficiary. This is especially important in provinces like Alberta because the rules can vary slightly. But in most provinces across Canada, if you're married or common law, successor holder is the way to go. Number two, beneficiary designation for non-spouse heirs. What if you want to leave your TFSA to your adult children, grandchildren, or someone else who isn't your spouse? That's where the beneficiary designation comes in. When you name a beneficiary on your TFSA, that person generally receives the value of the account as of the date of your death, tax-free. Still a great outcome, but not as seamless as successor holder. Here's what happens. Susan has $80,000 in her TFSA at her passing and has named her adult daughter Mary as the beneficiary. Mary receives that $80,000 tax-free. It doesn't get added to Susan's final tax return, doesn't create taxable income for Mary, and it bypasses probate because it's paid directly to the named beneficiary. But here's the catch. Mary doesn't inherit the TFSA itself. She just gets the cash. That account closes and Mary figures out what to do with the money on her own. If she has TFSA contribution room, great, she can deposit it there. But if not, that money will sit in a taxable account going forward. Also, any growth in the TFSA after the date of death, before the account is closed and paid out, is taxable. So if Susan's TFSA was worth $80,000 when she died, but by the time the paperwork was processed, it had grown to $82,000, that extra $2,000 is taxable income to the recipient. One more critical point. If you don't name anyone, if you leave that designation blank, your TFSA becomes part of your estate. And that's where things get a little messy. Number three, what happens if there's no beneficiary? If you don't name a successor holder or a beneficiary on your TFSA, the account goes into your estate. And once it's in your estate, many of the TFSA advantages are reduced or lost. First, the TFSA loses its tax-sheltered status. The value as of your date of death is still tax-free, but any growth after that becomes taxable to your estate. Second, depending on where you live, the TFSA may be subject to probate fees. In Alberta, probate fees are relatively low, but in provinces like Ontario or BC, you could be looking at 1 or 2% of the estate value. Third, your TFSA gets tied up in the estate settlement process, which can take months or years depending upon complexity. Here's a real scenario. David had $60,000 in his TFSA, but never filled out a beneficiary form. When he passed away suddenly, that $60,000 went to his estate. His will said everything should go to his 2 kids equally. But first, the estate paid probate fees, legal fees, and accounting costs. By the time everything was settled, which took about a year and a half, each child received less than half the value of the account. All of that could have been avoided if David had simply named his kids as the beneficiaries directly on the TFSA. If you haven't checked out your TFSA beneficiary designation recently, or if you're not sure if you've named one, this is your reminder. Call your advisor, confirm who's listed, and make sure it reflects your current wishes. In my practice, we take the time during the account setup process to ensure these designations are appropriate. And then during regular reviews, if we uncover any significant changes in your life, we make sure the original designations are still applicable. And if not, we make changes. Number 4, minor children and other special situations. One question I get a lot is, what if I want to leave my TFSA to my minor children or grandchildren? So here's the reality. You can name a minor as a beneficiary, but the process becomes more complicated. Provincial laws may require proceeds to be managed by a parent, a court-appointed guardian, or trustee. If a parent is not automatically the guardian, they may need court approval. Without a trustee, proceeds might go to the courts, which can be costly and time-consuming. Consulting a legal advisor is recommended for proper planning. Here's an alternative structure for Albertans. Since we're not that concerned about probate costs in Alberta, instead of naming them directly, you can name your estate as the beneficiary and use your will to create a trust for the minor, allowing for control over when they receive the funds, for example, at age 25 rather than age 18, age of majority. This doesn't come without potential costs or complexity like we just discussed. You'll have to decide if it's worthwhile. So if leaving your TFSA to minor children is part of your plan, you absolutely need to talk to an estate lawyer and a trusted financial planner to make sure everything is set up correctly. Don't just name your 2-year-old grandson as a beneficiary and assume it'll all work out. Another special situation. What if you're separated but not yet divorced and your ex is still named on your account? This happens more often than you think. Things like this get overlooked, especially during periods of disruption. Financial institutions will act on valid named beneficiaries and pay out funds accordingly, even though you might not have wanted things to go that way. The lesson here is simple. Review your beneficiary designations regularly. After any major life event, marriage, divorce, separation, the birth of a child or grandchild, invest some time to update your forms. Number 5, how TFSAs differ from RRSPs and RIFs at death. I want to wrap up quickly comparing what happens to a TFSA versus an RRSP or RIF when you die, because there's a big difference. With an RRSP or RIF, your entire value is added to your income in the year of your death, unless it rolls over to a surviving spouse or financially dependent child. That means if you die with $500,000 in your RRSP, all that becomes income and gets added to your final tax return. Depending upon your other income that year, you could be looking at a very hefty tax bill. But with a TFSA, zero. Whether it's $10,000 or $200,000, your TFSA passes to your named beneficiary or successor holder without triggering any tax on your final return. It's excluded from income taxation on your final return and generally outside your taxable estate for income purposes. There's also no probate costs in this situation. That's why TFSAs are such a powerful estate planning tool, not just for getting income during your lifetime, but for passing wealth to the next generation. And that's also why it's important to get the designations right. If you're not sure that you're using your TFSA properly in your planning, or if you haven't reviewed your beneficiary designations in years, let's fix that. Click the link in the description to book a consultation. We'll review your accounts, make sure your designations match your intentions, ensure that you have a sound investment process, and build a plan that protects your family and minimizes taxes. Let's take the next step.